Hey groupers, Pastor Marshall here. I hope that you're ready to dig into the first story in the book of Acts, the 5th chapter. To get things started, to break the ice, I think that it would be great if you told a story about something that you did that didn't have the most perfect motives. Something that you did that was good, was a good thing that you did, but you had a personal agenda. And then maybe you could tell a story about something that someone else did that's like that. That's what I did this last weekend. I told a story about my dad's remote control car Christmas gift. Someone that didn't have the purest motives, did something for you or did something good that you saw, and then you found out later that their motives weren't the purest. Or maybe you knew that their motives weren't the purest. Well, we dig into the story of Ananias and Sapphira and their offerings. For a story like this, I think maybe the most helpful thing for us to do to begin with is to share your immediate reaction to the story. Does it make you mad? Does it make you sad? Do you find this story to be very confusing? Do you read the story and say, right on, we got to deal with sin? What is your immediate reaction to the story? Share with your group just to get things started. Be candid with how do you feel when you read this story. Next, the church seems to be a lightning rod for people with impure motives. It seems like we as the church have a big, huge open door with a banner above it that says, come you hucksters, come you power mongers. Why does the church have such a big lightning rod for people with impure motives? Hucksters who want to profit financially, power mongers who are seeking control, self-centered who want to be pampered, they want everybody to tell them that they love them, or glory seekers that want the spotlight, they want the opportunity to be in a place of authority, a place where they get the spotlight, even deceivers who really want their own religion, and they use the church to try to pull people away. Why do you think that the church is a lightning rod for such folks? Now, please, let's resist the temptation to tell any personal stories, and especially let's not name any names of people whom you have known in the past that have fit into some of these molds. That's not what I want to do. I just want to deal with the question of why. It says in verse 3 that Satan filled Ananias' heart. So what I'm wondering is, and what I think you'd enjoy talking about is, what control can Satan have over a Christian's heart? Can Satan have control over a Christian's heart? Does Satan have direct control over a believer's heart? Or does Satan have indirect control over a believer's heart? What does that look like? What would it look like if Satan had direct control? And what does it look like if he has indirect control? Well, there's plenty of debate about what caused Ananias' demise and Sapphira's demise. So, what do you think about this matter? Is this an intense, guilty conscience that causes them, because of intense, sincere grief, to fall over dead? Believe it or not, there are actually historical evidence of people that experience such fate. Did Peter strike them dead? Is this his power and authority as the leader of the apostles? Or did the Holy Spirit cause this? What I'm asking you is, what do you think caused their demise? Next, and I think this will be fun, maybe even spirited, do you believe that Ananias and Sapphira were genuine believers? Was one of them a believer, and then that one pulled the other one down in, the one that wasn't a believer pulled the other one down into this behavior of disbelief? Were they at one point and then they stopped being believers because of greed? Here's what I really want you to talk about. Could they have gone to heaven? If they were believers, and you're going to have to look back at the 4th chapter, the section right before, it started off by saying all the believers were together with one heart and mind. So it says that these were all the believers, and then it tells the story of Barnabas, and then it tells the story of Ananias and Sapphira. So at least if we look at context, it sounds like they were believers. Could they have gone to heaven, even though they lied to the Holy Spirit? Or is this an example of blasphemy of the Holy Spirit? We were going through the Gospel of Luke, in Luke chapter 12, verse 10, if you want to look that back up. Jesus talked about the unforgivable sin, blasphemy of the Holy Spirit. Is that what's going on in this story? Now, remember that you love each other with the love of Christ. So in the middle of this spirited debate, let's not get mean-spirited. Well, every week I ask you to think about what your favorite thing in the story is. And to be perfectly honest with you, it's difficult to find something that I like in this story. But if people have impure motives, I do think it's valuable when impure motives are rooted out, when they're brought to the surface. What do I not like? That's a little easier. There's plenty of things not to like in this story. It's hard for me to imagine that Sapphira didn't know that her husband had died and had been buried. I mean, that's a big thing. And so at least shows me that she was somewhat thoughtless about her husband. Seems like she doesn't really care about him. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. Every week, I want to remind you about the application that we made at our weekend services when I was preaching, and hopefully the Holy Spirit was bringing you to some place of commitment or conviction. Well, we talked about our motives. We talked about trying to evaluate our motives. We talked about trying to live pure motives. And so challenge you this last week to try to think of one thing in your life that you're struggling with your motive, and to make it a matter of diligence this week, that you would start to work with not just pure actions, but pure motives. I hope that's going well for you. I hope the group goes well for you, and I look forward to seeing you this next week for the next piece in the book of Acts. God bless.